Hello, good morning. This is my video presentation for the Curso Didácticos. My name is Alvaro Alas, and, and this opportunity I'm going to share about listening skills is something that maybe Lalik should choose it and say, he's a good talker. Let's see if he can listen. It's a good test. Thanks, I appreciate. And let's see the first question over here. With what sense do we begin to enjoy a good meal? If you get inside a restaurant, the first thing you perceive is the smelling, right? If you find that smelling nice, then you proceed and order some food. When you get your dish and they serve it on the table, you take a look on the food and see if it looks good to you, and then you go to the next step, and then you taste it. It's the same thing. That's why I said we should listen with eye and read with ear, because we need to be really awake when we are listening to somebody the same way when we are reading. If you are reading and not paying attention on what are you reading, then you will forget as soon as you pass the line, the sentence, you will forget what you were reading. And I'm sure listening is an art. It requires work, self-discipline, and skills. And you need to work on that of that sense. You can make it yourself. It's auto discipline yourself and learn how to pay attention. I'm sure what I'm saying, because it's been really hard for me to learn how to listen to people. And we can consider some similarities between reading and listening, and some ways they can also be different. Like the reader, the listener is involved. You can see all the audience right there, all the people around the speaker. They are paying attention at what he's saying. Maybe he's speaking about business and about money. That's something that keeps our attention complete, absolutely absorb us. That's why it says involved. And far away from what people think before, they are very active activities. There's no way that being a listener is something passive, or being a reader is and something we can make it passive. It really requires action of our brains. They are also two ways for knowledge input, because you can uh, get the information inside your brain through ears and through your eyes. And for both, we need to practice and work hard to improve the skill. It's like any other sport. You need practice constantly, frequently, as often as possible. It's like when you start reading a book and you're finishing in a week or in a few days. There are some books that I open them and I can't stop reading them, and there are some of them that I read them in 1 day. Wow! But the same way when you are listening, sometimes you get like tired of listening to somebody, and then your attention is going out. There are two uh, issues involved in communication: transmission and receiving. So, I mean, there is a transmitter and has to be a receiver. The same way this is used radio, on radio transmission seminars, for example. Transmitter and receiver have to be connected and try to avoid any contamination like the noise between them in order to get a clear message. You have to handle your tone of voice, grammatical structure, volume, and speed of speech, and also need to identify external and internal contaminants. There is a very interesting exercise that we practiced when we went to a communication seminar a few years ago. Well, tons of years ago. Is consistent. You have a group of 15 or 12 people, for example, you call the first one and you tell the person what is the message. It can be short, don't need more than 2 or 3 sentences. Two is enough. And then this person goes to the next one who didn't listen anything, and then he or she said what she or he heard from the first transmitter, and then goes on and on and on till the next person. The last person is supposed to write what he or she receives, and then go back to the transmitter, the original transmitter, and read aloud the message. You will be wonder how different is the final message to the one it was transmitted in the first place. That's why I said you need to identify what the contaminants can be. You can work with external ones through concentrate yourself, but not with the internal ones. That's a bit harder. I don't know if you experience the same way, but I am able to create a whole scene with them reading. For example, The Exorcist. When I read that book back on the 80s, wow, it was amazing what I create. When I went to the movie, I get disappointed. It was, I mean, the movie gets short comparing to the book. And in almost all the cases, it's the same thing because your imagination has no limits. The limits is only you. But this is when you are listening. That is a different way. You are supposed to keep your feet on the ground. I mean, keep not allow your mind to get away from the place where you are and where the speaker is trying to take. And this is very important. We need to avoid listening prejudice. What it means that we don't or we have to try not to make judgments about what we are listening or look the appearance of the people who is speaking and then say, oh no, he doesn't look like he's able to do that or etc. That is what the people call be open-minded. So we need to be open ears also. With the experience, I have learned two golden rules. These are, in the first place, we must learn to read body language. That means that people talk not only with the mouth, not only with the tongue, it expresses with the hands, with the eyes, with the eyelids, eyebrows, and even the ears sometimes move when you are speaking and saying something interesting. And next, on the number two is that any reaction from us when we are listening can change the speech. Because the people who is speaking can modify what he's or she is saying depending on our reaction, or if we were distracted, or it seems like we are not paying attention, or even the person who is speaking to us can also judge us and say maybe he's not able to get this message. That's why the message has to be, or it needs to be creative, very clear. and handle our voice, the tone, the volume. Okay, thanks a lot. This is the end. Gracias. Thanks. Arigato. Merci. Obrigado. See you next time. Hopefully, we will survive to this storm.